All right, so we started talking about homeowners insurance in the previous lesson. So this would start on page 43. Okay, so we just talked about the fact that homeowners insurance is for people owning real estate or property. And it covers not just the contents and liability, but also the building itself. So that's why it's more. We talked about a bunch of factors that affect your insurance. I need you to be familiar with these terms, with these things, and that they affect your insurance. So sometimes they might ask you what are some things that one could change to get a discount or decrease your home insurance. Well, if you want to talk about the type of coverage, it's easy to go from comprehensive to standard. Standard is cheaper than comprehensive, right? You can't change the value of your home. You can change the additional coverage, right? Additional coverage, we're gonna, there could be overland flooding, groundwater flooding, or sewer backup, okay? So overland flooding is when water comes in, everything around you is flooded and comes in through the windows or doors. Groundwater is if the water under the basement, right, if the water level rises because there's a lot of precipitation and it seeps into your basement. So that'd be groundwater. So these are literally different types of coverages. And then there's sewer backup. When you flush the toilet or you shower, all that water runs away from the home. This is your home, this is the basement. Somewhere under your basement there's a drain, a pipe that's connected to the main city sewer. Okay? And if this backs up, for whatever reason it fills up, it's too much, it actually can come back into your house. You should have a backup valve for that, but that's besides the point. So these are different coverages that you can apply for or ask to be added to your insurance. And so that would definitely affect your insurance. Whether you want a $200 deductible or a $500 deductible. $500 is cheaper, because remember, if you want a $200 deductible, you add the 10%. You can install an alarm system. You can actually have it monitored, right? Those are things that you can actually change at the insurance broker and ask them to, and that will affect your premium for sure. Okay, on page 44 here, this is the table. You also have a much larger version of this on this handout that you should have received. It's pink most of the time, but here it is one more time. And one thing you need to remember here is that we need to pick from this big area here. We're going to pick one value from here, so we're going to have to narrow it down to just one value. The first thing that's going to narrow it down is the amount of coverage that you need, right? So along this is, maybe I should at least BOIC calculator. That is like a standard that they use to figure out the value of your home. There's a bunch of things that factor into it. We don't need to know that. And so one of these, right, whatever it's worth, you're going to go down that row, and then it's going to be narrowed down even further by knowing which area we live in, and then narrow it down one more time every single area that you live in. So Winnipeg or Metro Winnipeg is the same thing, okay? You're going to have to pick between standard and comprehensive, and you can tell comprehensive is always a little bit more, okay? Once you've picked a value, then you may or may not have to use these values down here if you go past your max, which is $200,000 for homeowners insurance, right? So we're going to subtract $200,000 from the value to be insured to see how much we're over by, and then multiply it by these numbers and divide it by 1,000. Once you determined all of that, then we may have to multiply by 1.10 if you require a $200 deductible. But that's the very last thing we do, okay? So this is on page 44, but you have your own table available. Let's talk on page 46 here we're gonna look at this formula one more time, and it is the same formula as the tenant insurance we worked with before, right? Works for tenant and home insurance. So overage is how much you're over by. I will say this, max for tenant is $75,000. That you should probably, well, you'll see it on the chart anyways, but max for owners, right? It would be 200,000. And if we go past these max amounts, right? So we will either be under tenant insurance or homeowners insurance. If we go over that, then and only then do we have to use this part of the formula. If you are in a tenant insurance and you go up to 75,000, this is literally omitted. Okay, so you'll see that as we go through the examples. So one more time, this needs to be on your study sheet because the province does not give you this formula. Okay, it's expected that you will know what to do if they give you information, and make sure you do this part. You always do that first if applicable. Okay, so take a time, maybe pause the video if you're watching this and do it right now. Add it to your study sheet under insurance, right? And this is only for home finance. We do not calculate it for vehicle finance. Okay, so I'm gonna try to leave that on the screen, and let's do our first example here. Okay, so we have Brent owns a house in Metro Winnipeg. Okay, so we have that going, and so it's in Winnipeg. So he wants $175,000 worth of insurance, comprehensive, and the comprehensive coverage. Right, that's the type of insurance. So this is kind of like one piece of information we need. We also need to know how much we want coverage for, what area we're in. Right, so these are all pieces of information that we need, and it's a $200 deductible. Okay, which does mean that we're going to have to multiply by 1.10 at one point. Okay, that's what that tells us. So what's the annual premium? First of all, I should mention that we're owning a home here, so it's homeowners insurance. You're gonna have to use that big chart that we just looked at. So insurance, square brackets. The maximum for owning, right, is 200,000. So we're not over the max. So all we're gonna have to do is just figure out the table rate, and we can omit all of this part right here. So let's go and find that value. I'm going to grab my table. Metro Winnipeg, 175 comprehensive. Metro Winnipeg, go down to 175 right here. And we want comprehensive, which is 668. Okay, so that's the number we grab right here. $668. 668. The rest is omitted. We do multiply by 1.10, so that part outside here in our formula stays, and that is all we do here. 668. So it's as little work as this, but it can get significantly harder if we go over. Okay, so 734.80, and I will expect you to know how to do this by next class. All right. Example 3. Jill owns a house, so we're owning, right, in Pine Falls, and is within 8 miles of a fire hydrant. That used to be a thing, but remember, I'm telling you it's Area 3. You want this much insurance, standard policy, $500 deductible. What's Jill's annual insurance? Okay, so we're in homeowners insurance, so that just means we're using the table that belongs to homeowners insurance. And we are over, for sure, we're over 200,000. So we go to Area 3, standard. So this is Area 3 here. I'm going to try to fit that on the margins there. Area 3. So we max out at 200,000 for sure. right? We're standard, so you go down that column all the way to the end, because 200,000, if you wanted 200,000 worth of coverage, is already 726. We need the 355 per $1,000 of additional coverage. Let's remember these two numbers, 726 and 355. This is 726 plus, I will figure out my overage, but it's 355 per $1,000 that I'm going to have to multiply that additional amount for. So technically, this covers up to $200,000, okay, coverage. Don't just put 200,000, then you might think you have to add 200,000. So that provides you that, but we're over, and we're over by $25,000. Okay, so that's what we're paying this much for. It's like if you buy, if apples are $3.55 for 1,000 grams, and you buy 25,000 grams worth of apples, well, that's what literally is happening. You multiply that by the price, then divide it by 1,000 in this case. Do we need to multiply it by 1.10? No, the answer is no, because it's a $500 deductible. We do not add 10% to our premium. Okay. This takes care of $25,000 of coverage. Okay, so you have to understand 225,000. So this together will give you a coverage for 225,000. So this stays at 726 plus. Okay, I'd encourage you to do 355. Can't see that on the calculator, can you? Make it a little brighter. There, 355 divided by 1,000. Okay, and then multiply that by 25,000. So it's 8875. We technically don't need the square brackets anymore. Now I'm just going to take this number and add 726 to it. That's 814.75. There we go. And that's your policy here for the year in this case. Continued. Oh, on the back side, I will do one more tenant insurance for you. With you, I should say. And then, so if you haven't done this yet, maybe attempt it. And pause it here, but I'm going to go ahead and solve this. So in this case, we are insuring an apartment, so the assumption is this is tenant insurance. 120,000 coverage, comprehensive, $500 deductible, which is good news for us. We don't need to add the 10%. Use the same formula, but a different table. So you don't use this one, you use this one, okay? So we need a table rate for sure. 120,000 comprehensive, you're in the comprehensive column, you get to a maximum of 75,000. So 454, and we'll remember the 550. 454 plus, I'll put the 550 over 1,000 already in here. Close that square bracket, and I'll figure this out. So you can just do that here if you want, 75,000. So you're 45,000 over, like you need to buy an additional $45,000 worth of coverage. And there you go. We don't need to multiply by 1.10, so this is just 454 plus, this is 550 divided by 1,000 times 45,000, it's 247.50. I add these two up, and it's 701.50. There's tenant insurance. So it's basically just using a different table, and the table obviously is very different. So I want you to try page 48 all the way to 53. Page 48 to 53, and I will post a key to that. Make sure you try it, because I do try different things while you're working through that. And make sure you're very familiar with home insurance for next class. You can expect an EC for next class. That's the next topic.